Oh, Ben, good to see you again. We
Hmm.
were talking for a while, and then you remember what you said?
What if
If
you if
like,
you yes
if you like, go ahead.
if yeah if you enjoy your job or whatever, you'll never work a day in your life.
And I was then about to say, and so we turned the video on,
Mm.
and I was about to say then that that's true at a particular point in
Mm-hmm.
time. And there are other points in time that, which basically means there are other mental states or other mind moment times when that's not true. In the
Mm-hmm.
sense that you can like your job overall long period of time, but right this very short moment, you don't like it at all.
Right. If there's some particularly stressful deadline or a particularly hard
Something
bit
like
of
that.
work. Mm.
Right. And this is one of the ways that people then, let us say, annoy themselves because they say to themselves, overall, they like their job, but they
Mm.
have a whole lot of these little moments that they don't. And
Right.
they're not paying attention to those because that is actually the mind moments that need to be dealt with. Because if we can deal with that mind moment so that we can solve that issue, then that will then strengthen the overall view that I like the job
Mm-hmm.
because I liked getting through this particular moment of it rather than going back into the old ways of doing things. Okay, so this is a way that you
Mm-hmm.
can say then that we can actually improve our attitude about our job, even the ones that we like.
Mm.
We can
Strengthen those.
Yes, we can strengthen that liking of the job and being very satisfied with what we're doing, not just in this moment, but in life in general. Our overall life satisfaction is basically what
Mm.
we're looking at here. But that overall life satisfaction is, let us say, uh, rotting from within in those particular mind moments when we're annoyed, we're frustrated, we don't like things. And that for uh, that situation, uh, those people are basically the lucky ones because very, very few do you have people who really do, not just really do like their jobs, but they like their whole life moment by moment by moment by moment. These
Mm.
people are extraordinarily rare, but those who like their job and are occasionally annoyed by it are the lucky ones. Because most people are annoyed by their job that would they would ordinarily like anyway. They just are aware of the annoyances enough that they call it the job, where in fact it's just these little mind moments that are happening and they're blaming it on the job. To where the lucky ones are the ones that are not actually blaming it on the job. They're just kind of forgetting all about all of the frustrations and mind moments of life that they don't enjoy.
Mm.
Okay.
They might be doing a fun job, but if their mind isn't gladdened sufficiently,
Mhm.
then the unwholesome states of mind that would enter their life anyway
Right.
enters the job setting as well.
Which actually means then that no matter what jobs people have and the wide variety of jobs that people could have, and their choices are the fact that it's their choice to have that kind of a job. And yet, the wide variety, probably more than 90% of the people, will say that they don't like their job.
Mm.
Why do they not like their job? Then they'll complain about the big things, but really the issues is they're not paying attention to the fact that a lot of thoughts that they have about the job are unwholesome. If they
Mm.
had wholesome thoughts about the job, here I
It'd be
go
a
back again.
completely
Now
different
that's the whole.
story.
Isn't that funny? That's the whole show. is that it has to do with our attitude, though, is our attitude is what gives us those thoughts. If we have a wholesome attitude, we will have wholesome thoughts. If we have an unwholesome attitude, we'll have unwholesome thoughts. And the attitude switches back and forth really quickly, which means that then so does the wholesome and unwholesome thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then, in fact, you could think, wrong choice of words there. One way, looking at only the thoughts as verbal actions that are wholesome or unwholesome. And then the attitude can also be seen as the mood that arise those thoughts out of. So if we're in a foul mood, we have foul thoughts. If we're in a good mood, we have good thoughts, right? So the mood and the attitude have a lot in common. Or in fact, they're just different ways of looking at the overall thinking process.
Yeah.
So in that regard, we could also use the word thought, how one thinks, in a broader context. So it's not necessarily just one thought moment after another, which is down at the 10th of a second level of one thought, one mind moment. But things happen a little slower at the attitudinal level.
Yeah.
And if we start paying attention then to the attitude that we have, those attitudes, if we make sure that we've got the right attitude about stuff, then that will help us keep those thoughts in line. Okay, so this is in fact what the Buddha would get to when he's talking about right effort, is there's two really kinds of different right effort. One would be at the actual thought level, one thought after the other one, and the other one would be at the attitude and view of things. That we have to change our views or change our attitudes in that way. So that by doing that, it's a little bit a longer term issue. And so we could say then that many people can have a kind of a positive attitude about life, but then occasionally things will bring it down. They've got buttons.
Yeah, buttons which are still getting pressed.
Buttons that are still getting pressed, but overall they're okay. And other people live their lives as if they're nothing but the button. Everything impacts them in a negative way because they expect everything to impact them in a negative way. And only a victim will think that way. And so once a person gets into a constant victim mentality over and over again, even though some thoughts are wholesome thoughts and some thoughts are, they're generally the pattern of the unwholesome thoughts. And that can be an intolerable hell that people set up defenses against. This is, in fact, the victim is actually the source of the bully, because one of the ways that a victim can behave is to act around others if he's not a victim. That he's the guy, he's the tough guy here. Except the tough guy really needs his sidekicks. Where most kids are out there on their own. But the bully, he really needs his sidekicks so that he can feel power. In fact, he gains his power and his strength by the fact that he knows that he can talk them into doing a dirty work or join the fight. There with him. Okay, so this is one of the qualities then that some victims have. Okay, another quality then would be he might not be a victim, but he can be the high school prom queen, or she could be the prom queen, or the chief of the pom-pom girls, or the cheerleaders, or whatever like that. The ones who are really insecure are the ones who buy the most makeup.
Yeah.
Okay, they've got to be on top, because if they're not, then they're nobody, and that terrifies them. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of different ways of dealing with this victimhood, but the correct way of dealing with this victimhood is start paying attention to the mood that we're in when we are playing victim, and start paying attention to the view that we have that gets us into this position of being a victim, because that's where all the unwholesome thoughts are coming from. They're emanating out of this victim.
That's definitely something that I in the past have fallen into. Like if I have a bad day or something, I in the past would message my girlfriend and be like, "Oh, why is this happening? Oh, ho, ho, ho." But which which when I say it out loud really sounds pathetic. but it's something that I've definitely gotten a lot better with.
Yes.
Which is good, but you know, I still do fall into the same sort of traps occasionally, but not nearly as often as what I did, which is brilliant.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's the whole point, is that you can begin to see the progression or where things are going.
Yeah, yeah, it's really encouraging to see.
Yes, that stuff doesn't happen often, and when it does, it really grabs us by the throat.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
where the
but then
people who
also
are
when it
stuck
does
in it the
happen, you
most are.
realize it.
Once we start getting out of that, so that means that we're back to this issue of confidence again. If we have the right attitude and that stuff comes up, we can say, aha, I see you again. There you are. As opposed to, oh no, incoming, you know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so being able to catch the stuff as it arises then is part of the, let us say, newly championed game of cat and mouse.
Newly
Only we're not the
champion.
mouse anymore. We're the cat now.
Yes,
We've
the
changed the
mouse.
game.
Yeah, the mouse is coming to bother us, and we're the cat,
Yep.
scaring it off,
Or pouncing on it or playing with it,
or
tossing it up in the air.
playing with it. Yeah, playful, very important.
Yes, to play with it as if it's a mouse rather than being reversed, is seeing that our bad moods, our foul ideas, our buttons getting pushed, and all of that kind of stuff is the predator, the big cat, and that we're the mouse.
Mm,
That's what the victim feels like. Is the victim feels like the lesser of the two,
yeah, yeah.
the smaller version. In fact, Keishan and I were just talking about him going camping, and the difference in the attitude of a mountain lion with a human versus a big grizzly bear with a human. Okay, mountain lions don't chase humans
Mm,
that are there for them. They chase humans that are scared of them.
yeah.
Okay. Grizzly bears are that way too, except that if you run from a grizzly bear, he's going to catch you too. Okay. So you don't want to run away from either one of them. But the mountain lion is much less likely to attack because the human is much bigger. Okay. So we're
Yeah.
not talking about now physically, we're talking about back mentally or psychologically. When
Mm,
we feel like we're a victim, that means that we feel like that we're physically smaller. um, there was a very famous psychologist, Fritz Perls, who used the word gestalt and gestalt therapy. He also he was the one who had the empty chair that people would talk to. They would bring mom in and
ah,
put her in the empty chair. Okay. And
right.
he had also the issue of top dog versus underdog. And this is where Eric Berne came to the four poles of the um, psychological OK Corral,
Mhm.
but it comes out of top dog underdog, and the victim is the one who is under. They're the bottom dog. They're the little dog and the top dog. Okay, so the whole point of one's life is the attitude. Are you going to be the underdog or the top dog in your own mind?
Mm. Yeah. Obviously, you want to be top dog.
Right. Okay.
Obviously.
All right. So there's it gets a little more complicated than that, and that's where Eric Berne comes in with the OK Corral. So we have I'm okay, you're okay
Mm-hmm.
is one of the poles. I'm okay, but you're not okay is another pole. You're okay and I'm not okay is the other pole. That's the victim's position of I'm not okay, but you're okay. You're the top dog here and I'm the underdog. And then the psychopathic's position is I'm okay and you're not okay. You're actually a victim of me.
Yeah.
Okay. The scammer, the con artist, the thief, the shiller, that's the I'm okay, you're not okay. And then the loser, and a lot of people are like this, I'm not okay and you're not okay. But the place that's the most healthy is the position of I'm okay, top dog, and so are you, top dog, which means that we don't have to fight or tussle or disagree about anything. We don't have to make one of us bottom dog.
Yeah. 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 Both be top dog. Help each
Yeah,
other out. Elevate each other. Help yourself.
that's right. This is what we call mutual friendship, cooperation. Capitalism is I'm okay, you're not okay. And the capitalized are I'm not okay, you're okay. In other words, Mr. Doctor, you're okay and I'm not okay. Please fix me, and here's tons of money to do it. Please put me in bankruptcy.
Oh dear. Damn you,
So,
capitalism.
but if we were at a level where it was socialized medicine, then I can meet the doctor equally. I'm okay, you're okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we now have this attitude of I'm okay and you're okay, then that actually eliminates the conflict. This is what the Buddha is also saying when he says that the Dhamma is 100%, it's all about friendship. Now, where that came from is that Sariputta had told Ananda that half of the Dhamma is friendship, and he was correct. So Ananda goes to the Buddha and says that Sariputta said, "Thus I have heard that friendship is half the Dhamma." And the Buddha corrects him and says, "Oh no, friendship is 100% of the Dhamma. It's the full Dhamma. Is all Dhamma, only Dhamma. That in fact friendship is all we teach here." And he was right too. Both Bhikkhu Sariputta and the Buddha were correct from different frames of reference.
Yeah.
Okay, but they were both correct because they were pointing at the same thing. That Sariputta was talking about friendship is once you get the inside straightened out, now your only job or only business for the world is to be friends with it. But the Buddha was pointing back out is that no, really what we've got to do is make friends with the self on the inside. And once we've made friendship on the inside, now we know how to do it. And so now we just apply the skills that we've already learned to the outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's all about friendship. But all of it back to again is about attitude.
Yeah. I think over the past week or so my attitude has just not been as right as it has been in the past. But it's great to recognize that and to realize that and say, hey, my attitude's been off. Let me just set that straight and, we're
Yeah,
good
I
to
can
go.
handle that. Oh, yeah, we can fix that. In fact, by having that attitude, hey, I can fix that. You just did.
That is right attitude.
And that's what it takes is that to be mindful that it's all four factors of the path, that it's the right view. And in fact, not only that, but they circle around on each other.
Hmm. One
Very,
leads into
very
the other.
specifically is that right attitude and right view are connected together.
Hmm.
They're deeply connected together, but so is sati and right view. Right view and sati are deeply connected together.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
right effort then is at the bottom, and that's the one that's the kind of the pendulum, and it depends upon how much attitude you have as to how much effort it's going to take. And the better attitude you have, the less effort that it takes. And so you can see how they circle around each other. They're interrelated.
Hmm.
And
Is
getting go
is
ahead.
there such a thing as applying too much effort and then having an opposite or an
Almost
adverse effect?
all meditation students apply too much effort.
Okay, let's explore that a bit. Let's explore that a bit because I think over the past week or so, with me being on the watch for the unwholesome or whatever to dispel them, I've been looking out for it too much to the point where it might even be conjuring up a little bit of unwholesome. So I think I've been too unnecessarily watchful rather than just letting the mind be and letting it just go about its merry way. I've been too forceful with it.
Okay. Well, as you'll remember our favorite analogy with the cowherd and his stick, now that the cows are in the pasture, you don't have to stand there with the cows with your stick. You
Yes,
go sit down under a
exactly.
tree.
Yeah.
That's what's the next thing is that now that we've gotten the cows, through the dangerous time, and we can really relax now.
Mm, mm.
So that's the way of recognizing, but that doesn't mean that we completely go to sleep,
Oh
that we
yeah, yeah.
keep
We're
an eye on
still
things.
aware. Still aware.
Fine. But the whole point is that now everything is okay. I can relax.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that anything that keeps me from being relaxed needs to be thrown out, and then I can relax again.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, so this is where our mindfulness goes now is how relaxed are we?
Mm.
Okay. How
Mm.
comfortable are we? Do we really feel good? The other part of it is wow, isn't this nice? Which is the pity. Okay. Just isn't it just so nice? And so because it's so relaxed and feels comfortable and has that still a bit of wow factor in there, then yeah, that's it.
Mm. Yeah.
Everything's all right, everything's fine. And so we don't have to work at it anymore, other than to check in to make sure everything is all right, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we check in and it's that dang email again. It's that
Yeah.
dang email again, or oh, I got to go shopping, or this, that, and the other thing. And now we're stirred up, and I can say, wait a minute, I thought everything was okay. I thought everything was fine.
Yeah.
I can sit back and relax. And when I'm sitting back and relax, that in fact could be
Yeah.
something
That's.
it could be as complicated as composing music, or
Mm.
it could be as complicated as mounting a diamond in a ring, or as it could be as complicated as doing artwork
Mm.
or architectural drawings. It could be something like writing code.
So I like the music example. Sometimes simple is best. You don't have to
Mm.
use extravagant chord progressions and melody or something like that. And that could be seen as applying too much effort. Sometimes simple is best. Just a basic chord progression is perfect. You don't need to do all of this.
Well, that's the secret then. And the other part is that we get distracted into the past and the future while we're doing stuff. That the mistake that the diamond cutter will make is when he's not paying attention to what he's doing, he's thinking about his daughter or something.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the whole point is that can we stay in the present moment? That's part of the training. And that's in fact what an artisan needs anyway, is to be able to be in the moment. Musicians have to be in the moment. Boxers have to be in the moment. If they're thinking about Aunt Susie, they're going to get face hit.
They're gonna get knocked out.
Exactly. And so there's a whole lot of stuff that requires us to be here now, but they are still not on guard to the kind of thoughts that they have, but they are in the present moment, where many people are just not in the present moment hardly ever. They're always distracted and thinking about something else and not in the here now. So some professions require us to be in the here now in order to get the job done. But there's this more to it than that, and that is that the real job that needs to be done in life is to get ourselves into a comfortable, happy state. If we're in a comfortable, happy state, that means we've got everything that we need right now.
Yeah. Everything else follows on from that.
Everything else follows from that. And so we can actually be a very good diamond cutter, or we can actually be a very good jewelry setter, or artist, or code writer, or musician writing symphonies, or anything else happily.
Yes. Because when you're happy, you're not concerned about the future or about the past. You're 100% in the present, and so you can give your full attention, your full effort to whatever task it is that you have to do, because you're not off worrying, gallivanting about this, that, and the other.
Exactly. Now, this is something that's quite important, because a lot of people, and in fact, I've had some people actually argue with me in the sense of, oh, well, if I did what you were talking about, I would lay in bed and I'd never get up. And I bought into that and said, well, there are times when you don't want to get up. But having nothing to do and no place to go does not make one, let us say, completely useless to himself. We still have, let us say, old business that needs to be done, but we don't have to treat it as old business. We can treat it like it needs to be done, and this something to do in this present moment while we're doing it happily. In other words, talking about, we can have toys to play with. It's not our only option is to be miserable out working versus being in bed doing nothing. And that guy will probably be miserable in bed doing nothing, trying to tell himself he's got no place to go. But if he actually did have nothing to do, he would surely find something to occupy his time and to play with. This is the whole point of life, is let's find a way of playing happily with the toys that nature has given us.
And besides, isn't one of the 5 hindrances sloth as well?
Yes.
So laying in bed all day, that's a hindrance.
That's a hindrance, exactly right. And that actually sloth, or the don't care attitude, actually springs from doubt. It's related to doubt. Okay. Because why? Because if someone is doubtful that they can ever get out of the misery they're in, why bother trying?
They're just gonna stay slumped. They're gonna stay
Slumped in
buried
bed.
under a pile of dukkha. And
I think some people call that depression.
Yeah.
Someone who is depressed means that they don't see any way out, because they're full of doubt about whether they can, in fact, get themselves out of bed or not. rather than having thoughts about, oh, well, what can I play with next? What kind of toys does the universe offer? And the number one answer always is, guess what? Nature gave me personally my own physical human body to play with. Now that's a toy.
There's a lot that you can do.
And there's a lot of stuff that a human toy can do. A human body. It's just, you can watch it think, you can watch it behave, you can watch it feel bad, you can watch it feel good. You can control it. You can make it breathe hard or soft.
Yes, there's a lot that you can do with it.
And so having that as our first toy to play with. And so that toy you can play with and you don't even have to get out of bed.
Yeah, but don't spend all day in bed, because it is a hindrance.
Well, I wouldn't say the reclining posture is the same thing as sloth. Sloth is really an attitude based in doubt.
Yeah.
And that attitude is a hindrance. Where actually somebody could be getting great value out of being in bed. It's happened before.
It's a very good point. Yesterday, I didn't get out of bed until like 11 o'clock, 11 a.m., and it was great. It was great. I was just like, oh, yes, this is lovely.
So, getting back to what we were talking about in that progression with those little mind moments, as opposed to longer term and then very long term attitudes. And the attitude can right attitude can be that way, but what we're wanting to work on is specifically the short-term attitude, because that will eventually affect the long-term attitude.
You affect the short term for a good amount of time, then that becomes the long-term attitude, because it's over an extended period of time. You've just repeated it in shorter increments.
Exactly. Time after time after time, we've changed our attitude about things,
Then
and so
it becomes the long term. Yeah.
But we only know about that in the short term. This is what the sati, or the waking up process, is. And so working with these four things together, sati always is the first thing, even though the Buddha says that right view comes first. The way that we look at the world view, comes first. It comes first as the foundation, in the sense that we at least have to have the right view that sati is worthwhile having. We don't have the right view that sati is worth having, then we're not going to bother. So in that regard, it does come first. Once we have the right view that sati matters, now every time we remember, every time sati, every time wakey happens, there's that right view going along with it to investigate, to keep investigating with the sati. And then one's right effort is, once the investigation is done, is to take the effort that it takes to change the mind, to gladden the mind. And as we do that, eventually we start changing and gladdening the attitude, especially if we're working directly with the attitude, to get that attitude up, to get every little thought in line. By getting the overall general attitude up, the thoughts are naturally going to be wholesome.
Yes.
That's where the real one wholesome thought after another comes from eventually, is with the right attitude, because the right attitude makes these thoughts one after another easy enough. It's no longer a struggle. which is now back to where we started, isn't it?
Yes, at that point it becomes autonomous.
Yes, it becomes autumn almost, but not autumn. It's got weight
Stuff.
behind it. It's got
Yeah.
inertia behind it. It's got actually a little bit of habit now behind it.
Yeah.
We get in the habit of doing that, and we come out of doing the old habits will die away. Okay. Actually, one of the things that we understand with the word inertia is that it's something that is sitting still. It tends to remain sitting still, like a marble on the table. But if we push it a little bit, the marble starts to roll, and it will continue to roll because of the inertia. So an object once in motion, it tends to stay in motion, and it tends to stay. This is actually the part that we have as a vector of acceleration, also has direction built into it. So not only does it continue to roll, but it continues to roll in the same direction that it was rolling. The same thing like pushing a car. If you push the car up, that's a little more complicated because of the shape of the tires, but a marble is a good example because it could roll to the side or over yonder. But the only way that it'll do that is because of gravity had caused it to roll off of it. But if the surface is flat, it tends to roll off in that same direction. Your attitude
Yeah.
does too. Once you kick your attitude off into going in the right direction, it tends to roll in that direction, which means that if you kick it often enough, it begins to build momentum. If you keep kicking that marble, it's going to keep getting
Analogy.
faster
I
and faster.
like that. I like that analogy. It's a very good analogy.
So if we keep that sati going and keep that right thought going and keep that attitude up over and over and over again, the habit gets built quickly. Because we're running at a pretty fast pace away from the old habits that we used to keep in the mind. What habits were those? The habits of being victim. The habits of I'm working too hard.
The habits of thinking, oh, don't. Those are my stupid habits, and I have been much, much better with them, which is brilliant. You push away from those thoughts and those habits, and then, whoa, surprise, surprise, the associated feelings that you have with those thoughts. And see how that works.
Exactly so. That's the whole idea then, is that we do talk ourselves into feeling bad.
Yeah.
And we talk ourselves with the thoughts that we have, and those thoughts come out of the attitude that we have. So if we're in a foul mood, we have foul thoughts that take us spiraling downward. If we
Yeah.
have happy thoughts because the mind is bright, then the spiral goes upward, which is again the momentum
Yeah.
or the issue of inertia. And you keep kicking that marble, and you keep kicking it, and you keep kicking it. It keeps going in that direction at a fair rate of speed. So here's the issue then of right effort is only right effort when it's easy effort. Once you start the thing going, there's no reason to push anymore. That really comes true. Have you
Yeah.
ever been with a guy or others, or even by yourself, pushing a car off? We don't do it much anymore, but when I was a kid, it happened often. Batteries would die or whatever like that, and you had to push the car off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
trick to it, and that is that once you get the car moving, it's easy to get it to roll. That in fact, you could push the
Yeah.
car off by yourself And then it keeps rolling while you run around to the front, jump in the front door, and pull the stick down and pop the clutch and get it started. You can do that all by yourself. Because why?
Yeah.
Because of the inertia. And that's the attitude. The attitude now is the way the mind works, or the moodiness of the mind that has inertia built into it, which the thoughts don't. Thoughts are instantaneous almost. They're like a tenth of a second. But the mind has this weight to it, which is the attitude.
Mm.
And so once you push it off, you can get, once you get your mojo, I guess, is the way of doing it. Or
Yeah.
getting our attitude about meditation greatly increases the ability to do the meditation. We go into the meditation with, oh, this is a lot of work. It is. Go into it with the idea, wow, isn't this great? It is.
You get to sit here and do nothing but breathe. Hell yeah, let's go. Then you're going to go into it and probably have a much more successful meditation. And hey, if I do actually have COVID, I'm going to be spending a lot of time in my
Well, since
which
you've
is
had the shot, the likelihood of you spending any time at all much of any place, I mean, you've had the shot. So even if you have COVID, the likelihood of you being able to spread it is not good. And also the likelihood of you getting sick enough to go into the hospital is not very good. Quarantine seems to be somewhere in between there, but my lifestyle would be normal people's quarantine.
yeah, lots of people have a problem with it. And I have a wholesome or a gladdened mind, and so without any external stimuli to distract themselves from it, they are left completely with the mind, and they don't like what they see,
They don't like what
so
they see,
they
and they don't
really
know what
don't
to
like
do
what
about
they
it.
exactly.
Right. But
Down
when we
and
do
all of
like
that
what the
stuff.
mind is doing, then we don't mind being alone at all.
Exactly.
From time to time, I've had the thought about, well, what if, or what, and if you think about all the steps in between, it becomes more and more unlikely, or more and more impossible for them to take an old man jolly like me with no police record at all and pop him into solitary confinement. Generally, the only time that happens is when you insult or assault one of the guards, and I'm going to make them my best friends. But if they did put me into solitary confinement, that would be fine with me. Yeah, it would be okay. In fact, that sounds like the best part of the prison. Some of the rest of the prison are dangerous out there.
The prison can be very dangerous, but if you're just by yourself, breathing in solitary, oh, lovely.
Then people will say, well, you'll get used to that. Now, so anyway, back to the whole idea then is that it has a lot to do with attitude. If you go to prison with the right attitude, it's not prison.
Yeah.
And if you go into COVID with the right attitude, it ain't COVID. Gotcha.
Yeah.
You'll be all right. It doesn't matter whether you got
Yeah.
the little virus cells in you or not. You'll take care of them fine. You've got all the power of that Pfizer that you need. You and Pfizer
Exactly.
together can take care of this.
Let's go. I think the word like lockdown or quarantine, it's a word which carries a lot of weight and a lot of negative connotations to it. But if you remove the connotations surrounding the word, then it's just alone time.
Yeah, it's just a bit of solitude. Now, isn't that nice?
Right? That's- Exactly. It sounds quite
Get
nice.
away from it all. I mean, that's what they call vacation, isn't it?
Literally.
What you call quarantine, I call vacation. And that's why I can say that every day's a holiday. Every day's a vacation
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Yeah. So I
So
mean,
you'll handle it fine.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it'll be cool. It'll be cool. It's no
And anapanasati is not work.
worries.
It's in fact just the opposite of that. There's actually several places in the sutta where it gives that point of view that this is not an activity or a work assignment. This is relaxation. This is joy. This is gladdening the mind. This is relaxation. Relax the body. Get to know it. This is joyful. This is gladdening the mind. This is taking the hindrances out and having a good time. And people come to meditation and they think that it's so much work.
Yeah.
And I think
work,
part of that attitude
good
is,
times.
yeah, I think part of the attitude with that has to come from the way that retreats are set up. Yeah, retreats are set up like that so that, I mean, it's gosh, it's very boot campy in many ways. Everybody comes at the same time, at the time of the retreat starts. Everybody has to go through the check-in. Everybody's goodies are all taken away from them and put into seclusion. Here in Asia, they take passports. Every place else, they take whatever they can get, including all writing equipment, all books, all tablets, all notebooks, all cell phones, everything. Anything that you can use to entertain yourself is verboten in retreats. There's a good reason for that. It's excellent training. It's called seclusion. Except the people who come are not quite ready for that, and they often because they don't know what to do with their mind when they get locked up in solitary confinement with none of the books or anything, and they don't know what to do. Well, the right thing to do is to follow the instructions of the meditation teacher. If he's given correct instructions, I would hope so. And that was, hey, you're here to enjoy yourself. Sit down and relax. Take a load off your feet. Take your load off your mind.
Don't know how to relax.
A lot of people don't.
They don't. They try and when they try and actually do that, they just feel so strange.
And a lot of other people will take a vacation by going to a resort. They'll go traveling on a vacation. Believe me, travel is not vacation.
Travel is stressful.
Travel is stressful. In fact, the Buddha uses travel as one of the examples of hindrances. Being out on travel is so stressful, but getting home after travel is relaxing. So the hindrances, like when the hindrances are there, it's like being out on a journey or on a travel. When you're free from the hindrances, it's like finally getting home. And yet people in the United States and worldwide, when they go on vacation, what do? They go traveling. It's the worst possible thing they could do if they want a vacation. But they also have such limited time for vacation that they either have a choice of relaxing or travel, because they can't do both. If they had 3 months, they could do some of each. Like a week of travel to Asia and a week of travel back home, and then the rest of that 3 months you spend sitting on your butt on an island.
I mean, hey, sitting on an island sounds quite nice. That sounds very nice.
Don't take my word for it. Come see for yourself. You're welcome. We've got room. Stay here on the porch. We've got another extra room downstairs. Tun's here, by the way. Tun was staying. He was over at Dom Kiem for more than 3 years, but he went to Bangkok because of some minor surgery. And when he came back, one of the monks was afraid that he'd caught COVID because when Tun was in Bangkok, there was an outbreak. We haven't had an outbreak of COVID, but they did, and so he hadn't had a shot. So he's been a house guest of mine for the past few weeks. And now the vaccine has finally not come to the island for everyone now, but it's been here for about 3 or 4 weeks for the Thai.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so the Thais have been well vaccinated. In fact, Tam was number 400 and something, and they did 1,200 the first day. That's quite a lot. I mean, for the first day on the island to get 1,200, that's 10% of the population was vaccinated on the first day.
That's really good. That's really, really good.
And so then by Friday, they started letting Burmese and other Asians and the Westerners do it. The Thais haven't been 100% vaccinated. In fact, the day that I was there was a lot of monks. And I guess that the monks were waiting for the last day. And so they were there the day that the Farang and the Burmese were starting up. So I was there from got there at about 10 in the morning and didn't leave until after 5 in the afternoon. And it was crowded. Oh, so much crowded. They started vaccinating Burmese and Farang in the afternoon because they were still vaccinating Thais in the morning. So
I'm just moving because Wi-Fi connection keeps on playing up, so I'm gonna go and plug in Ethernet cable at my desk. I was enjoying sitting in bed, batting off a little bit, which very annoying.
So anyway, all of that COVID stuff was about Tun is here, but we've got private rooms available. Anyone who wants to come to study Dhamma, this is an island paradise. This is a really great place to do it.
Sound
Free
nice.
room.
Well, that does sound
Yeah, we've
nice.
had dozens
Good.
of Dhamma students come and stay here over the course of the past 5 or so years.
Oh, that does sound nice. I know that there's but it's Vipassana. There's two Vipassana centres in Herefordshire and Sussex, so on the east coast and then near Wales.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go there for a little bit. You have to stay days, then you're able to return to do weekend retreats. But before you can do a weekend, you have to do 10 days. And I don't understand that. If you've never done any meditation and then you decide to yourself, oh, I'll go on a meditation retreat and I'll sit there for 10 really is like just being dropped in at the deep end.
Mm-hmm. I would not now over the years, and especially the number of retreats that I've done. I would say more than 30. More than 30 10-day retreats for the equipment.
Wow.
Some about half and half, about half student and half teacher.
Wow. Very nice.
Well, I've learned a lot about retreats, and that while I would still be willing to lead one, I would make sure that it's how to say it. I would make it even more relaxed than the ones at Wat Suan Mok, but the ones at Wat Suan Mok are probably the most relaxed in the world right now. In the sense of for the Westerners, the part of the issue with Watso and Moke is that it's so remote and that it's part of the vacation experience, so that most of the people who come do the retreats hear about the retreats while they're in Thailand. They do the retreat while they're in Thailand. Some of them do it on the cheap. And so they see 10 days retreat as 10 free days in Thailand. And so for that reason, it's a lot of repeat business, even though retreats in general are mostly repeat. That's all they have. It's always brand new students. Very rarely do old students come back for a second or a third retreat, because at Watso and Moke, you can get a private cootie. You can get in the back. You can go to Dom Kiem and stay all the time you want to, because you don't need that. In fact, no one needs that formalized retreat. For some reason, it leaked out of Burma that way. I know the whole history. I've been to Burma, and I've spent a lot of time with Goenka, and I know exactly where and how
Yeah.
Goenka got his system. So we know all of the history of that. And in fact, to be honest with you, I was one of the promulgators to get the 10-day retreats going at Watso and Moke. I'm guilty, Your Honor. I did the first 12 retreats as the teacher at the place when they put the new facilities in. So I understand the retreats, but I understand why people feel like such a failure at them is because there's too much. It's too intense.
Hmm.
That in
It does
fact
seem
the
like the
10-day
sort of thing that needs to be built up.
yes, people actually need a practice before they go intensely into it. Oh, there's so many examples. One of them is that you do not start with 10-kilo dumbbells. You just don't start with 10-kilo dumbbells. You don't. You start with 1 kilo dumbbells, and maybe
Yeah.
go to 2. 5 is a trip. 10, don't start with 10 dumbbells. Okay, 10
You
kilos
gotta
of dumbbells,
work
but a
your
10
way
day
up.
up. Exactly. And the 10-day meditation retreat is like starting with 10-kilo dumbbells. That's an example. That's one analogy is that it's just too much for most
To
people.
just try and yeah.
And so they're naturally going to fail at it,
And then
especially
they're
if
gonna
they
feel
follow.
crappy.
And this is why, so the way the retreats are set up, people get in the habit of working too hard, expecting too much, wanting too much. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that this is not the right way to get started. Okay. That people are used to sitting in chairs. So let them sit in chairs and don't expect them to sit on the floor, because that's mostly what you have to offer. That's the Asian mentality. And the funny thing is, and this is so humorous, I got you here. I've got a photo of Wat Atamayata in Seattle, the meditation room, just as the meditation is breaking up and the people are still in the room, and the room is full of chairs, and these are all Asians. The Asians will sit in chairs in the meditation hall, the whole room full of them, and the Farang have to sit on the floor.
Scandal. How scandalous.
Well, that's because the Asians know how to practice, and if it's more comfortable to sit in the chair and practice, and sit and practice in the chair. And the Westerners will say, "Oh no, you got to sit on the floor. That's the right way to do it. I saw it in a movie once."
You gotta sit on the floor, full lotus,
Yeah, I
hands
got to
up
go
like
for.
this. Yeah. No, yeah. You shouldn't have to force yourself to be in uncomfortable positions and stuff like that, because meditation's meant to be a wholesome experience. So if you're more comfortable, it's going to be more wholesome. So if you need to sit in a chair, sit in a chair. Get some cushions. Put the cushions on the chair. You comfy?
Yes,
Lovely.
right. That's in fact one of the issues of the word sukha, which is one of the skills to be developed, is comfort. Also, if the body is on pins and needles, that's not relaxed. Okay, so we're covering step 4 of Anapanasati to relax the body, and step number 6 for sukha. And that just eliminates all of these strange postures that people sit in. But meditation, for some reason, because it came from Asia, they think that they got to sit on the floor. Or in fact, the reason that people sit on the floor in Asia is because they can. They don't need the furniture. It's not cold in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And in fact, you want to sit on the hardwood floor. It's cooler.
Yeah, so
In the
it might
West, you
feel
want to put
nicer.
carpet. Yeah, in the wintertime up north, you want to get away from the floor. That's why we sit on the chairs. And we take our 2-year-olds off the floor and put them in a high chair to make them safe, because the floor is cold.
Floor can get very cold.
And in Thailand, you say the floor is cold and say, yeah, that's why we sit on it.
It's like, hell yeah, it's so nice. Come on, pull up a bit of floor. Let's chill.
But in Seattle, it's sufficiently different that the Thais are sitting in the chairs.
Yeah. It's too cold. The floor's too cold. I don't want to touch it.
The floor is too cold.
Sit on
Exactly. Oh, so now that we can see that, we can understand that when people go to do these retreats where they're expected to sit on the floor in postures they have never, until that day, sat on. This is the first time they've done a retreat, never done any meditation, never squatted on the floor or any of that stuff. And so everything winds up being foreign. And the Goenka retreats don't even have walking meditation scheduled.
Really?
Yeah, they don't even do walking meditation. It's all sitting all the time.
Just sit for 10 days. Don't move. Just sit, breathe.
Anapana first, and then scanning meditation after that. That's step 1 and step 3 of Anapanasati. That's all they do, but they do it so intensely that people think that they're getting enormous value out of that, where in fact they wind up just feeling bad often.
So I can't do it. Oh, I suck. And that's what you leave. That's how you leave feeling. That's not good. That's not conducive. That's not wholesome.
It's not wholesome when people feel like they're a failure when they leave a meditation camp. Everybody, and a lot of people feel really good when they leave, only because they feel so relieved of like, wow, I'm finally glad I'm out of prison. Which is exactly, that's a good feeling to be, to get out of prison, get out of jail.
Yeah,
right?
but you shouldn't be viewing a retreat
But you shouldn't have felt
as
like you were in jail when you're in
yeah.
a meditation retreat. You should have been able to develop the joy of the meditation. So this is one of the problems with them is that the way that they're set up, they're too much for people, and people don't get out of them what they could get out if they practiced in a more wholesome way.
Yeah.
And so I would want to take a meditation retreat in that direction. But then there's another thing that I think would help. And that is that if you've got the right facilities, then why do they have to start on 10 days where everybody comes together? Now, the reason that started in Burma was because all of the employees that were working for the then director of finance for the newly formed Burmese government got the time off because their bosses gave them off. That's why they all went together to a 10-day retreat. That's how it got started. We recognize that that's not necessarily how it works anywhere else in Buddhism, that no 2 kids wind up at the doorstep of the temple on the same day for a retreat. Okay, so I would set up a retreat center then that where first come, first serves, but you start when you arrive. You don't have to sit in a hotel for 3 days waiting for the course to open.
Yeah.
Or that it's a scheduled time where all 100 people come all on the same day.
It's not nearly as random.
Yeah, that we could handle 20 new people every day. And they would all come in and join in. and that people would leave when it was time for them to leave, not because it was 10 days. Then, in fact, the whole idea of the 10-day was from Friday evening to the following Monday morning. So you spend a week plus both the weekends, and that's your 10-day retreat. So if they were planned like that, but not all retreats, for instance, the ones at Watsu and Milk, for convenience sake, they always start on the first of the month.
Right.
Well, that doesn't mean anything then, does it?
Right.
So doing them starting on Friday evening would be for the working crowd, and that would be appropriate, but it would only be because that's when the people came to the retreat. If somebody wants to come on Thursday, he can come on Thursday. He doesn't have to wait until Friday to start. Then, in fact, everyone would feel better that way because each one of them who came individually would have some individual attention. That I can handle 20 people and each one of them feels good about it when I see them one at a time as they arrive. But if they all arrive at the same time, now I have 20 people to deal with all at once.
I mean, yeah, your idea of meditation retreat sounds much nicer than the Vipassana center retreats.
Well, all they'd have to do is think things through and they would change their style. But it also has to do with the availability of the teachers and the way the retreats and the things are set up. So if the teacher was at the facility and he was just there without seeing a particular today, the retreat starts. It just was just there all the time, then it would be easy going.
Yeah, a lot
And
more
so,
relaxed.
but that's the way that it traditionally is, and that's how every Wat operates. It's the retreat centers, Asian and Western, that go by this structured form that is so inappropriate. But it served to function in Burma, and it certainly has been a vehicle to get Western Buddhism into the West. Okay. Just like you arrived on a jet plane, are you going to stay in that jet plane? I mean, once you landed at LaGuardia, do you have to stay in the plane just because that's what got you to UK? So why do we have to stay in the format of the retreats just because it was the retreat formats that got Buddhism started in the West? Doesn't mean we have to stay with those that format. We can find other formats to use.
Stuff with that.
Pardon?
I said stuff can be altered and changed. There's nothing
Yes.
wrong with that, but people just don't seem to want to change anything.
Well, the way that I'm talking about it would promote right attitude a whole lot better. And that the way that the retreats are set up now are promoting wrong attitude, or let us say victims attitude. And a lot of the workers and volunteers, they go and promote that attitude. Oh, poor dear, I know how hard it is, only it was really hard for me too. The volunteers should say, hey, you know something, you're right there. Why don't we go sing this place? No, they can't. Everybody has to play victim.
Everybody.
So the volunteers who are also old students, the volunteers, they also play the same victim game that all of the students do. Oh, poor me, ain't it awful? And the other side of it is that when somebody does have a great big whoop-de-doo meditation session, or at least something happens in a meditation session, now he can't contain himself.
Yeah.
It's too important to just keep quiet about. And so he goes and he bothers other students about what he hid. And when that happens, two things happen. One is when they hear about it, they get jealous and they want it too.
Yeah.
And number two, now what he remembers of that experience is what he told about it the second time. And so
It's going
now
to be
what he
slightly
remembers is not the real experience, it's his retelling of the
different.
experience.
Mm.
And so we make stuff up because it really was a great big deal.
Yeah.
And we have to make sure that they know what a big deal it was. And so we make some improvements. Where, in fact, if you
We're
think
out of
about it, it was
proportion.
just another experience. A lot of people in meditation have the issue about experiences. Here's something that's really important, and that is that no one experiences, for instance, the world or reality. The only thing that we experience is what we make of reality. And so if someone has a really whip-to-do experience and he thinks he now knows the secrets to nature, he's just making that up. He had a really wow experience, and now he's got to angrodize it rather than just recognizing that an experience is just an experience. You have one every moment. You can make of it what you want. But because we have so many of them, not any one particular one is important.
People make them more important.
We make them important. We make our meditation experiences a big deal. And here's part of the reason why. If every day is a holiday, then no particular day is a particularly holiday, is it? Because every day is a holiday. If every experience is a wonderful experience, then why does one experience have to be a whoop-de-doo wonderful experience? And yet they do, and they make whoop-de-doos out of these experiences, and they say, I had a past life experience, or I had an experience, and now I'm a sotapan, or I'm an amagami, or a doopy-doopy, or something, because I've had an experience. So my experience, and now I know the nature of reality. Well, you've been in the nature of reality all of this other time. Why is it such a big experience now? Or worse than that, why was it your wow experience is now in the past? You're not having that wow experience of you're not seeing the nature of reality right now. That's just an old past experience. Why do we
stop clinging on to it?
Yes, it's this moment that's important, not the past ones or the ones that were the big ones.
Yeah, the past doesn't matter.
Past doesn't matter. Always is in the moment.
I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, the past doesn't exist. It did. Into the past? No. The present is all you have, so stop worrying about it.
More than that, the past is always an experience. Now, there's a difference than record keeping, okay? We're not talking about record keeping. We're not talking about the job of computers and cash registers and all that kind of stuff. We're talking about human experience. Talking about experience, not record keeping, not facts. We're talking about experience. So this is an important point. And experiences in the past are unverifiable with facts. They're always just in memory. And I'm not talking about computer memory. I'm talking about human memory. And guess what? People don't remember what happened. They remember their experience of what happened, which is not always the same as someone else's experience. What I'm saying is two guys will argue with each other over what happened at a particular event that they were both at, because they both had a different experience of it.
Yeah.
Especially if one's a Democrat and the other's a Republican, or maybe a third one. You get what I'm talking about, right? It depends upon our preference as to what we experience.
Yeah.
Our views actually influence, or so does our attitude. Influences completely our experience. And so in meditation, if somebody has a really great big experience, that just meant at that particular point, he had a particular attitude. And that's all that it means. And if he would have that attitude more often, he'd have that experience more often, but then it would become ordinary, just like everything else is.
Mm-hmm. It really does all come down to that attitude and that view. It really, really does.
Yes, it does. The attitude is everything in this regard, or actually, the attitude is the cherry on the cake of the Eightfold Noble Path.
Mm-hmm.
Because with the right attitude, the mind comes together. With right view, right attitude, right sati, and right effort, the mind becomes organized and humanized. And the Buddha calls it right unification of mind. The unification is actually the way that we should see samadhi, to where most people in Western Buddhism think of right sama area samadhi as a concentrated mind rather than an organized mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you could say then that right effort, right view, right sati, and right attitude, those four things are like the clockwork that would be put into a clock. And when the clockwork is put together correctly, the clock ticks.
Yes.
However, if you take those four things and concentrate them instead of putting them in place, if you just merely concentrate them, that's like taking a sledgehammer to a grandfather clock. You can get it in a small package, but it don't tick.
Mm-hmm.
This is the problem with concentration, is when the mind is concentrated, it don't tick. And we want a mind that ticks correctly.
Yeah.
It thinks correctly. It thinks with right, wholesome thoughts. And the right, wholesome thoughts comes because the mind is organized correctly. And that right unification of mind comes in the fact, then, if the mind is organized and unified correctly, then we don't want anything. And if we don't want anything, then we're unlikely to go out and to steal it or to kill for it. So our sila becomes natural. It's a natural outcome of not wanting anything. It's a natural outcome of being friends. If I'm friends with everybody, then who am I going to gossip about? My friends. If you're gossiping about people, they're not so much friends to you, are they? and so, and so, and so, this is the way of looking at it: is that when the heart is right, the shoe is. Or there's a. Actually, this is chunks to soup. When the shoe fits, the foot is forgotten. Imagine that you've got a pair of shoes and you're walking along and you've got a stone in your shoe.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a stone in your shoe, you know it.
Oh yes. Oh yes. You're
Okay?
very
Oh,
aware.
yes. And you're very aware of it, and you have to watch out for it. And so you clean out the shoe. Okay, the mind is the same way, but we don't know it. A lot of times we're just walking around with stones in the mind and we don't know it. But if we had a shoe and we took the rock out, then when the shoe fits right, then the foot is forgotten. So the next line is then when the mind, when the heart is right, for and against are forgotten. That is so beautiful. When the heart
That
is right,
really
or
is.
yeah, that when the mind is correct, when the mind is wholesome, for and against are forgotten. This is better than that. Well, that's exactly the second noble truth, for and against. I like it, I don't like it. And we do that ignorantly. But
Yeah.
when the heart is right, for and against are forgotten. We don't go down that ignorant path.
That's a really good way to look at it. A really good analogy.
Yes, so when the shoe is right, the for and against are forgotten. So that means then when the mind gets right, when we get the stones out of the mind, when we stop rattling around in there, then we're not colliding with things, which means the fors and against are forgotten, and we become friends with everybody. We don't have any foes. We don't have any pros and cons. Everything's okay. Everything's fine.
Mm.
And people say, well, we're out to make the world a better place. The answer to that is Adam and Eve had it pretty well, and then they screwed it up. What do you want to do? I don't think you can make a world a better place because you're trying to make it a better place with poor tools of your own mind. If you actually got the world to be a better place, it would be your own mind, your own internal world that you could make it a better place. And then when that's a better place, you don't have to worry about making the world a better place. It's already okay like it was.
Yeah. Gotta concern
We
yourself
only
with
see the world
what's
as a
up there.
bad place because we're looking at it through the lenses of
Bad.
bad lenses out of, and when we change the way that we look, when we change our attitude about the world, it's not so bad after all.
Yeah. Again,
Don't have to
right
make the world
view.
a better place. It's all right like it is. We just have a lot of friends who trying to make it a better place because they don't like it. And so when you recognize that everything then winds around that it's not really an external world there after all, it's only an internal world.
Yeah.
It really is only an internal world, because if we learn to deal with the internal world correctly, we'll deal with the external world naturally correctly. In other words, when the heart is right, then for and against out there are forgotten all about.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is where the Buddha then and Sariputta meet together, is in whether or not friendship means we're talking about internal or talking about external. Because if we're talking about internal, we're actually talking about both.
Yeah. When you set the internal right, then the external will follow.
Or we can see that it was always internal anyway, that it was only delusional that we thought that it was external.
Yeah.
It is all internal. So when someone says, I had an experience and now I know the nature of reality, I can say, okay, but you don't have to say that that was a one-time shot. You could do it again and again and again and again and again until that's ordinary.
Yeah.
Everything becomes ordinary, but things happen. When the first time it happens, it's always special.
It's always, oh my God. Yeah.
What you just did reminds me of exactly the way I was with my mother's sewing machine when I first started to use it.
Mm-hmm.
Using a sewing machine is a bit of skill. If you don't have it the first time,
It takes
you're going to bunch stuff up and it's back and forth and it's just a big mess. And then you go, what have I done? But with skill, we can get beyond that. Unfortunately, most people leave their lives at that bunched up, oh, what I have done step. We don't progress beyond that. We live our whole lives at that instinctual, oh, this is a disaster. But with some skill and some effort, right effort, we can learn to sew. The same thing is true about automobile mechanics, or actually anything. The first time you do something, it's a disaster.
Anything,
but if you keep
you
doing
can get
it,
good at it.
You keep doing it, you get good at it. Everything is a
Practice
skill to be
makes
developed.
perfect.
And so the first mistake that meditators make is, oh my God, the mind has wandered away again. Oh, monkey mind. Oh, I can't control my mind. That's the first mistake that they make.
Yeah.
But
Monkey mind.
They could get beyond that and you say, oh no, be happy that you caught it. You could see that stuff happening. Now that you can see it, just keep watching it because it's going to keep happening. Pretty soon you'll get a chance to change it.
From
And then you'll
branch
get
to
good at
branch,
change.
but yeah.
And so now here you are working at attitude to get that attitude up.
Mm.
It is not work. It is easy.
Yeah. It's not a choice. Normally do. It's something that you can bring enthusiasm, enjoyment, and pride and joy to, which feels great.
It's that actually, that ingredient is enthusiasm. The difference between a bad attitude and a good attitude is enthusiasm. Building up that joy, that enthusiasm that has to do that enthusiasm and let me at it. I can do that.
Yeah.
And so that's what I see as my job. My job as a friend on the internet is to talk up enthusiasm. To get the students enthusiastic to practice, to get them with the attitude, you could do this.
I'm enthusiastic and confident in my abilities, and I look forward to, I look forward to the progression and dealing with the mind and whatnot. You're doing a good job, doing a very good job of it.
Thus I have been told.
Helpful.
Heard it before.
Yeah.
So all part of the practice, yes. Been reviled too. Pretty nasty things have been said, I'll tell you. Blow hard, he can't control himself, he's out of control. I mean, people can say all kinds of things. But I'm glad that you're getting benefit out of it and can say so. That's good.
I can definitely say so.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and finish now, and we'll talk again.
But hey.
You've got some attitude today.
Yes, definitely. The longer this conversation has progressed on, the more that my attitude has improved and has been more right.
All right. Excellent.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
All right. Take care, and we'll speak again soon. Thank you very much for today.
Yes, Ben. See you later.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.